Crowbar! Yeah!
Hey everybody, welcome back to Ground Zero Salem. As always, I'm your host, Pat. So as alluded to with that little teaser video last week, I had myself a little day trip up to Portland, Maine for a gig. I saw Eyehategod and Crowbar 2 times. The show at Genos, which is kind of the CBGBs of Maine, has had a rich history of punk and metal and stuff like that over the years. They hosted it and they sold out the evening show, which I got tickets for, but they also had a matinee show that they decided to put out there that the bands, God bless them, decided that they would play as well. 2 gigs in one day. So I figured it'd be fun to pick up tickets to that as well. And before that, go record shopping up and down Congress Street, which is the kind of the main drag in Portland. I have a long history with Portland. I love that town. Eons ago, I lived in a nearby town called Lewiston that's not nearly as fun as Portland. I lived there for about a year and a half, and I made it down to Portland as often as I could. I just thought that town was the bee's knees. It's a fun city. I still have a number of friends there. Got to catch up with a lot of people, meet a few new faces. I met Ben NG, longtime commenter and supporter of the channel. We got some breakfast the next day. Just stayed the night, but I thought it'd be fun to just go on a day trip all by myself. You know, I easily could have driven there. I decided I was going to take the train just because I used to have to do that years and years ago. When I would go to see bands play in Albany, I would walk all the way to the train station because I didn't have a car, and I kind of miss that. You know, I miss that kind of being on foot. You know, being adventurous. I did not really take into account that my 47-year-old frame might be hurting by the end of the day. I was in Vans slip-ons. This is ill-advised. Let this be a cautionary tale to you. Have proper arch support, ergonomic support, whatever you need. I did have some new insoles I grabbed on the way out, but those Dr. Scholl's weren't doing nothing. You know what I mean? Get some real shoes if you're going to be on your feet all day. Kind of makes me think about how, if you hadn't heard, Kurt from Crowbar having some serious back problems. You know, he's walking around with one of those kind of rolly walker things, and you know, despite this, 2 sets, playing the sets, you know, sitting down because he has to. But I'm not going to complain about my back giving me a little bit of a problem at all. You know, that's a real road warrior right there. I'll throw in a clip. Of them playing. They sounded great. They played everything I wanted to hear. Eyehategod was fantastic as well. I didn't really record too much of the concert, the show, really. I don't like being one of those people that watches an entire gig through their camera. And also, there was somebody there shooting with like a quality setup. Like, why would I, just take crappy cell phone videos of it? So I'll throw a little snippet in there, but like I said, I was living in the moment, not a cell phone in sight. So I got up crack of dawn. I slept about 4 hours the night before and headed out my door. And this is my tale. So I wanted to keep it minimal for this trip. Just this one little bag here, one strapper, little water bottle there. For my shopping needs, I brought my trusty, dusty, sorry state record bag. And I waved goodbye to the skeleton in my basement. And I decided I was going to walk. I wasn't going to even drive to the train station. I just wanted to have a little adventure by myself. This is downtown Salem here. On my way to the MBTA station, I had to catch the commuter rail to the train at North Station. There's the train map. Very pleasant ride usually, as long as there aren't any delays, as the MBTA has issues. Thankfully, nothing got in the way. And then you get to North Station, and on the Downeaster, which is, it's an Amtrak train, but it leaves pretty frequently from down there. It's very comfortable. I decided to go with business class because, I'm a yuppie. I always like going past this skate park. One day I'd like to check it out and skate it, fall on my ass. And that dude did not stick that kickflip. Oh well. Yeah, it's a nice thing to look at going past. I like graffiti too. There's me. I decided to give myself a budget. I'm gonna hit up all my favorite stores and check out some new ones. $200 was my cap. First place that I ended up at was Strange, Maine. This is one of my favorite places to go. Strange, Maine is a place that I always go to. I really, really dig that place a lot. I've been going there for probably, I want to say, a decade now. I don't make it up to Portland every year. Usually it's every couple of years, but Strange, Maine, Coast City Comics, the Cryptozoology Museum, which I missed out on this time. Those are always the spots that I hit up. And I feel like there's a lot of stores doing that now on Congress Street. It seems like there's like 2 or 3 of them that I'll talk about that I was not familiar with before, that kind of do vintage stuff. They don't do just one thing, which seems like a pretty smart business model. There's a combination of records, sometimes clothing, not in the case of Strange, Maine. Strange, Maine had Strange, Maine had video games, tons of VHS. I think that's a big appeal for people that collect VHS tapes. I'm pretty selective. I do have a VHS collection, but I'm pretty picky about what I put in it, especially because I'm running out of space. But just a wall of VHS tapes, as you'll see, records, video games, some other assorted ephemera. They had some books and stuff like that. So, and reasonable prices. So I always like going in there, shooting in these places, filming my shopping sprees. I'm weird about that. I enjoy a lot of content creators that do that. Simon over at Explosive Actions shopping videos are pretty cool. There's a retro gamer guy named Jason Graves that gave himself a challenge where he went around to all these Goodwills, like all over Florida, and just tried to get as much like gaming stuff as he could. I think at the end of the video, he donates it all back. Very entertaining guy, by the way. Check out that creator if you hadn't, Jason Graves. Even if you're not super into video games, it's a funny dude. Anyways, so I enjoy these shopping videos that people do. I'm wicked gun shy when it comes to having my phone out. I don't want to accidentally film people that don't want to be filmed. I don't want to be I'm a boomer. I don't like being obtrusive with my technology, even though it's kind of an accepted part of the culture these days. So that's why a lot of my stuff is in, portrait mode as opposed to landscape. A lot of the stuff's a little shaky, very quick, because I just wanted to get a small idea of what I was flipping through. So, and also Strange, Maine, cool place, kind of a hole in the wall, very claustrophobic at points if there's more than like 4 or 5 people in there. So my excursion there was kind of brief. I just flipped through stuff and grabbed what I could. These are the new arrivals here. Punk metal, new wave. October. I like that record. I already own it. Backstabbers Inc. Should have bought that Rush. I didn't. And going through a lot of the Van Halen, Foreigner. St. Vitus. You know I love Vitus, but I already own this. It's a repress. So, pass that by. We'll get to what I picked up at the end of the video here. I wish I liked Dark Shadows more. A lot of Dark Shadows VHS. Tons of VHS at this place. Porky's. Didn't end up going with Porky's. Those, I don't know if those early 80s sex romps really aged well. Then we had this place. It's just called Vintage. I'll have to put a caption. I forget what it was called. Some tapes there. Again, punk and new wave. Heavy on the new wave in a lot of these places. Old punk stuff. Richard Hell, Clash. You know, nothing too crazy here. Okay prices for the most part. Oh, yep. Yep. Okay, this place was interesting. Lots of wide open space, kind of advertising itself as a clothing store, a vintage clothing store and records, and that was it. Kind of remind me of the weird sketch in Snuffbox, if anybody remembers that show from the mid-2000s. It's an early Matt Berry show. Matt Berry and Rich Fulcher, but there's a recurring vignette where Matt Berry gets beat up by people at different, like, fancy clothing stores. It's the wide open white clothing stores. I don't know. It gave me that kind of vibe. Despite the fact that it seemed to have a little bit too much wide open space, they did have a lot of great records. I decided on splurging on that COC record. I'll talk about that in a bit. One of my favorite hardcore albums of all time. There were a few other things that I considered grabbing, namely the Bloodcum Death by a Clothes Hanger 12-inch on Wild Rags, the band that advertised themselves as the little brothers of Slayer. I've had that record a couple of different times. It's a late 80s Wild Rags thrash record, and the quality that goes along with that, it doesn't really stand above the pack too much. It's more the novelty of the thing, kind of the offensive nature of it, that I think a lot of people, you know, check it out and then name check it and everything. And I was trying to keep to my budget, my $200 budget, so I just went for the quality COC eye for an eye variant that I didn't have. So that's what I scored at that place. Then I went down the street to Electric Buddha. Seemed like older hippie fellows run this place, which is cool. Very typical for Portland. I feel like a little bit of everything. We got retro games, we got records. Check out these new in-box TSR trading cards. Amazing. Definitely got some of those for me and my wife. Then we got some, you know, Atari 2600 games, Coleco, very small selection of modern games, and this Captain Beyond record. If you didn't catch that, the section said LSD, mushrooms, and fun for the psych stuff. Then we got this Coast City Comics Funbox Monster Emporium. This place is massive. I just love walking around in here. It's like up to the ceiling with cool stuff. Obviously comic books and toys and all that stuff, but they've got pinball games in the back. You can see Tales from the Crypt, Elvira, and Doctor Who, which is awesome. Then skate stuff in the back, old school skate stuff. And, I mean, you gotta have Funko Pops, I guess, just to make money these days. And, awesome novelty t-shirts. And then, I mean, as cool as Coast City Comics is, I really didn't buy anything for the purpose of this video there. I bought a couple of Pokemon Pez dispensers for my son. I got some random stuff for my better half, a Dolly Parton pin and a Macho Man Randy Savage pin. A few other little things there. I think I got her a Miyazaki creature coin purse thing and a couple other bits and bobs. Love that place though. Definitely would have spent more money there if I hadn't committed myself to a minimalist approach to getting around, because there were some really, really cool toys and stuff that I'd like to put on display, but another time, you know, when I go back with my family or whatever. So yeah, always like that place. Then we go to the Merchant Co. This was I didn't really know about this place. This was kind of like a last visit. I thought I was done shopping kind of deal. Pretty well stocked metal section. Again, you know, stuff that was like $4 or $5 not that long ago. 3 times and more now. And a lot of stuff I wasn't interested in. You know, a lot of hard rock and, you know, whatever kind of stuff. Stuff I already had. Overpriced Black Sabbath represses and stuff. But you got some Blood Rock, which is always good. and amazing band Blood Rock. I have both of these. And BOC that I passed by, I do own that on CD, but you know, I'm going on a budget here. Secret Treaties is probably my favorite. But then, scrolling through here, some Cooper as well. You know, mandatory stuff. This, holy crap. And finally at the Merchant Co., I almost didn't go into this place. There's something about the font and just the general feng shui of everything seemed very like, oh, this place has metal records in the back? Weird. It definitely was giving me like fancy thrift kind of vibes and everything, so I didn't think I'd find anything there. And there probably could have been a lot more that I was going to paw through, but I wanted to be careful with my finances. I almost broke the 200 going for that Odin record. Unfortunately, always check the quality of something if it says as is on it. They wanted, I forget what they wanted for it. It wasn't too bad. I think it was like $35 or something. The problem was, and thankfully the proprietor of the establishment was a cool guy. He was like, "Did you look at this?" And pulled it out, white vinyl, which was extremely rare for records back then. Probably one of the reasons why a decent copy of it fetches a lot of money. The LP itself had just like a crack, and he played it for me, but it was just like continuous static over everything. So if you didn't know, Odin was one of the bands that never really saw any success from Decline of Western Civilization Part 2. That EP is actually really good metal. And it's kind of funny because I was just on an episode of What Are You Listening To with Mike, and I held up another band called Odin, you know, kind of a prog band from the 70s. And a bunch of people, Grant, and I think everybody made the joke, oh, isn't that the Odin at Gazari's that they talk about? That actually was. And I was like, oh, it's fate. We were just talking about the other Odin. I'll get this Odin. But it was just beat to crap and was barely playable. So unfortunately, I had to put it back. So yeah, I did end up getting a cool Uriah Heep LP that I didn't have, and I stayed to my budget. I got in just under $200 for that one, so that's good. It's just some cool art, outside art. The Portland Museum was right around the corner from my hotel, so you know, to feel cultured, I snapped a few pics of those. And those are the scores. Let's talk about them. Now that we're back home, let's talk about what I scored, what I picked up. I like going around to these little mom and pop, like kind of thrifty sort of record store, kind of hip places on Congress Street, because the prices are reasonable. You're going to find stuff, you know, that's kind of local to the area. Sometimes you can find some obscure stuff. A good example of like something relatively local. This band was from New Hampshire. I got this at Strange, Maine. Backstabbers INC. This is their record from 2014. They did a ton in the early to mid 2000s and then disappeared for a while. Members went on to be in Trap Them. I know that a few people that were, or maybe just one personnel member from December Wolves was involved in all three, I believe. But this is a quick little EP they put out in 2014 and then disappeared again. Probably went on to do more stuff with Trap Them and other projects. But it's a single-sided, very nice, like clear EP. You know, it's not too much longer than the length of a 7-inch. It's quick, fast, manic, metallic, hardcore stuff. 8 tracks on it. I remember their earlier stuff being a little bit more brutal and maybe a little bit more technical. This is a lot more raging, kind of dark hardcore stuff. There's a few kind of metallic elements on it, but it reminds me a lot of stuff like Tragedy, you know, that gloomy kind of Stadium Crust stuff. Really well done. They cover Protest and Survive by Discharge and do an excellent job with it. Very good record. Glad I picked that up. The other LP that I picked up at Strange, Maine, I just bought this just because it's, for one thing, it's called Death Panels, which is a reference, a very timely reference. This came out in the 2000s or maybe early 2010s, reference to that whole Obama thing with universal health care. You know, it's like, oh, more innocent times, Death Panels. And it says Stoner Rock, and it was $13, so I grabbed it. And it's decent. It is just jammy stoner rock without any vocals. Yeah, there's guitar, bass, drums, personnel members, and then 3 people on vibes, which is really funny considering current day, slang and everything. Vibes this, vibes that. And not sure where these folks are from. I thought I saw it on here somewhere. This came out on Automatic Dope Records. I looked it up at one point. I think they're from the South somewhere. But yeah, this is just, it's two very long, jammy, stoner rock kind of Sabbathy tracks. It's enjoyable. Then I bought this. I have many different versions of this. I have the Illusions version of this on CD. I have, I think, Listenable Records repress on vinyl. Sadist Chemical Exposure. I mean, you can't say no to it if you just see it in the wild. You got to pick it up. This is the Metal Mind reissue of it, so who knows if it's 100% legit. Again, this says as is on it. Check the quality of stuff. I think this will clean up okay. I got a guy down the street who works at my local game store that can do resurfacing for discs, so I'll get this cleaned up. But it was hard to say no to it just because it says Polish thrash on it. So clearly somebody didn't do their research. Metal Mind is a Polish label. Sadists were from the Bay Area. Definitely not Polish, but classic neck snapping, fast, venomous thrash metal stuff. Then I figured I'd pick this up. I always pick up any Lizzy Borden I just see out in the wild. This is a pretty raging live record. It sounds really good. It's pretty raw, It's got a lot of their straightforward, like really pure heavy metal stuff going on. Lesser than their like maybe a little bit more hair metal later stuff. Not sure when this was recorded, but it's a really good, like long, lot of tracks on this long live record. And then finally, I had to get a VHS. I didn't buy the Porkies. It's kind of overwhelming being in that place, and it's kind of crowded, and there's just like wall of VHS. There's probably more stuff they had rare stuff too that was like kind of pricey, but was out of my price range for my limit. So I saw this and I was like, yeah, dude, I'll pick this up. Hardware Wars. This is classic classic spoof on Star Wars that they somehow got away with. I think there was something going on with like George Lucas for some reason like didn't copyright it back in the day, and a bunch of different spoofs came out. But yeah, Hardware Wars, just terrible mockery of the first Star Wars movie on VHS. And then from the next place, that vintage place, I got this COC. I'm not a more than one copy of a record guy, except with a few LPs that are just evergreen to me, very important, sentimentally, very important, formatively, just stuff that I've been into forever. And in that very small pantheon is the debut from Corrosion of Conformity, Eye for an Eye. This is a Toxic Shock pressing of it with the weird creature, not the with the COC dangly earring, not the radiation skull. I've got a Toxic Shock pressing of that one too, and a different variant of this that is, I think instead of blue, the guy's white or kind of eggshell. I listen to this still all the time. COC is one of those bands that I got to appreciate more and more over the years as I dug into their heavier stuff, their doomy stuff, stonery stuff. I didn't care for that anything past Blind very much until I was in my 30s. But they're a band where I almost celebrate the entire catalog. Not so hot on America's Volume Dealer, but almost everything else. You cannot go wrong with their first handful of records from the 80s if you want great hardcore punk, great crossover a little bit later. This is, not the tightest record. There's sloppy elements to it, but the way Reed is playing drums on it, he's just going nuts. And there's so many good fills and so much like, I don't know, just like creative, almost like weirdly jazzy attacks on the drum set. that I love. Even on the first record, you can hear little bits and pieces borrowed from Black Sabbath, you know, borrowed from like Master of Reality, and then just sped up like super fast. It's great riffs on it, great raw yelling kind of vocals from Eric, who I think he only sang on this, and I think they had some stuff before this that was on comps and demos and stuff like that, no core comp and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, what a great album. I could not say no. It's in great shape. No insert, unfortunately, but I don't really need one. I have all the lyrics memorized. Awesome stuff. Happy to add it to the rest of the family. And then from Electric Buddhas, we got this Captain Beyond, Sufficiently Breathless. I'm not sure where in the lineup it is, how many records along this is in the discography. Pleasant surprise, not at all like the debut I have, the one that, you know, most people are familiar with from Captain Beyond, the self-titled Dancing Madly Backwards on a Sea of Air, that one. This is a lot more folky. There's a lot more acoustic stuff going on with this. There's almost like, again, like some kind of syncopated kind of jazzy stuff going on with almost sort of Santana-ish with a lot of the music going on in this. They've expanded their repertoire, it sounds like, a lot. You know, we've got electric and acoustic pianos, slide guitar, timbales, congas, you know, that kind of stuff. Not nearly as heavy as that debut, but still a really cool record. And I love this style of art, this kind of Terry Gilliam weird. I want to say it's very British, but, you know, Terry Gilliam was the only guy in Monty Python that was American, so, you know, whatever. But it feels like, you know, very, very, very kind of, or Danger Mouse, you know, those Danger Mouse bits, you know. I don't know. I love the art style. Not sure what the name of the artist is. And then, sadly, had to leave that Odin behind, but I didn't want to leave without some sort of consolation prize. $8, good deal for this Uriah Heep, you know, by today's prices or whatever. Uriah Heep, The Magician's Birthday. Did not have this one before, not too familiar with it. Listened to it once already. This is on Bronze, which is nice, Motorhead's label, you know. Lots of like really almost kind of over the top, like choral singing, like lots of voices singing in unison, like like that kind of stuff. Ever present, cool keyboards, which you're gonna get with all your Uriah Heep, you know. Great rock and riffs and everything. Maybe not as heavy as the debut and a few of the other records, like a little bit slicker, you know, but not really approaching like AOR territory or anything like that. Just great 70s hard rock with those sort of fantasy elements that we all love so much, those of us that like to toss a D20 now and again. And oh yeah, I got to Columbo this. Just one thing I forgot. I got video games too, so I might as well talk about those. At Strange Maine, I picked up Tony Hawk's Proving Ground. I never really played the Tony Hawk games past like Pro Skater 3 or 4, I want to say. This is more like a Grand Theft Auto type of thing where you go and you have missions and everything. I played it a little bit. It was pretty fun. You know, the PS2 style graphics, polygon, whatever. Those style graphics where they have to translate what somebody actually looks like, and people just look weird. Like Ardo Sari looks really odd in this, but I played it just to test it out on my PS2 here. It's fun. And then I haven't popped this in yet. Sacred 3. This is what appears to be like a multiplayer hack and slash, like Diablo kind of game. So, I mean, both of these were cheap. Both of these were like, I think this was $7. This was $6. You know, it's just like, oh, cool. Grab some video games. And then at Electric Buddha, I collect Atari 2600 games. You know, not like a crazy person. You know, I'm not trying to get a complete set of anything, but I do like to pick up all the Activision games that I can, just because they're usually a lot of fun, even if they're very similar to other ones. If you didn't know, Activision were people that worked for Atari and in the early 80s, and all decided that they were going to revolt against Atari and start their own company and make better games and stuff like that. And I haven't played Laser Blast yet, but there's a lot of good stuff under the Activision, the original old school Activision banner, you know, Pitfall and all that kind of stuff. So Laser Blast looks like it's going to be a lot like Missile Command. I'm just guessing. I don't know. Just going by the art there, it looks like there's a bunch of different types. Game 1, cadet level. Game 2, okay, it's just difficulties. And then this is just called Surround. I have no idea, but I love that classic early 80s Atari. Hopefully that'll come into focus there. There we go. That early 80s Atari style art. I don't know what is going on here. I don't even know if this is going to be one of those games where I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, what the other block is supposed to be doing to the block in front of it. Is it supposed to shoot it or eat it? I don't know. We'll see. Looks like it might be like a weird grid involved, which I'm always a fan of. Yes, I do believe that's it. I get some other bits and bobs, but nothing really, whatever. I got a Bionic Commando magnet, and oh, you know what? You know what'll be fun? I'll be right back. So, like I showed off, there was that cool standee thing. Standee, that's what they're called, right? I don't know, whatever. Display. There was that display box at Electric Buddha's that was new, old stock TSR collector cards. And I mean, they weren't cheap, but you know, for collector's prices, $7 a pack, which is, you know, a little exorbitant, but we're talking original collector stuff here. And I am collector scum. I thought I'd grab a couple of these and give them to my better half because she's a big fan of Forgotten Realms, specifically the Drizzt Do'Urden books and like Icewind Dale. And I was hoping like, oh, cool, maybe you'll get a cool Dark Elf or something. And granted, you know, I didn't read every single TSR book when I was a kid. I read a fair amount of Dragonlance, Ravenloft, and some Forgotten Realms stuff, but good God, the art could be better on these. We got Mistletoe from the Forgotten Realms. You remember Mistletoe? You got from Greyhawk, Ginsis. Oh, who could forget? Also from Forgotten Realms, Wescladat. Spelljammer. You got the Aster Eater. So yeah, we went through these and I was just like, I don't remember any of the. Oh, here we go. Here's one. Not Strahd von Zarovich himself, but we got his horse. Will you focus, please? Whatever. It's a skeletal horse. Yeah. So, oh, and of course, not from a specific realm. It looks like you just got Babs. What's up, Babs? How's it going? Shoot. All right. So yeah, shopping excursion was great. The shows were awesome, and it was great to catch up with old friends, meet a few new people. Like I was saying, great hanging out with Ben NG. So I'll wrap this up now. This was my trip to Maine, and we'll see what happens with the next update. I have a big old stack of CDs here, a lot of which were recommendations. So I do want to get to work on that recommendations video. I just need to go through all my comments and sort out who recommended me what. But yeah, that'll probably be next. Hopefully next week. Trying to stay on top of this, but like I said, I've been picking up extra hours, a little less time to create content. So what are you going to do? I'll get to it as soon as possible. I hope you have a good day. You take care and stuff. Wash your face. Oh yeah, one last thing I forgot to mention. This 7-Eleven was blasting opera the entire time I was there. I have no idea why. I thought it was maybe just something for the night before, but lo and behold, the next day before I left, I was walking around, it was still blasting opera. Super odd. Okay, that's all. Bye.